Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalina. Let's talk leadership. Hello and welcome back. I'm glad that you're here. Today we're continuing to explore the Enneagram and we'll be discussing type 5, the Investigator. So if you haven't taken this assessment already, I highly recommend you do so that you figure out your type. I've had people who thought they were one type and took the assessment and found that, well, their results were more aligned this time around. So while your type shouldn't change, the level of accuracy does depend on the state you're in when you answer the questions. If you're in a stress response, for example, if you're rushing, all of that will really influence how it is that you answer and thus your results. So highly recommend you give it a shot. It's in the show notes. So it should be really easy to just click through and get your Enneagram type. If you already know you're type 5, welcome to the party, as it were. Type 5s are really special. The Investigator, as they're called, they're really analytical and perceptive. And so there's this deep desire for knowledge, understanding, and self-sufficiency. And that's one of the core motivations, really, right? Trying to understand and seek mastery, really wanting to uncover the underlying principles that govern the world around them, which would mean, scientists or anyone that studies things outside themselves. I would say key traits are, again, analytical and insightful, a real intellect and thirst for knowledge, very independent and self-reliant, really values autonomy and freedom in their pursuits. And we've talked about this in other episodes, right? But it's like, okay, who wouldn't, upon being asked, who wouldn't say, yeah, I value freedom? Most people would say yes. But the way, and remember, because this is important with the Enneagram, right? It's the way that you live that out in your everyday life. It's the way that you actually show up for, behave, that backs up those words. And it's also different types would have a different way of showcasing that. So again, freedom for a type 5 is that independence. It's being self-reliant. It's the autonomy. So freedom is not like a day out with friends necessarily. Freedom is freedom of time to be introspective and observe and analyze, maybe, rather than actively engaging with others. Freedom for a type 5 is that independence of thought, of like a scientist that can research whatever they want. Again, as we stated, the type 5 is really motivated by a desire for mastery. We really know for sure somebody's a type 5 when they value competence and expertise and they're immersed in a specialized field of study. But you could say, okay, so is every professor at every university that's doing research, are they all type 5s? No, again, because underneath that competence, we want to know the motivation. And the motivation is something like feeling capable, being able to rely on intellect and knowledge to navigate life's challenges. So you can have researchers that are in it for the fame. They might be a type 3. They want to look good. You might have a type 2 that's in it to help their students and help others around them. They really are a professor for the teaching component and less for the research component. It's in talking to it's in talking to anyone that you can discern their type, again, based on motivation. So two people could be in the exact same scenario of being that professor, but you will understand their type by really seeing what's driving them. And this longing to be capable and competent, to be able to rely on intellect and knowledge. This is somebody that's really focused on semantics, word choice, someone that is usually high in verbal fluency, doesn't have to be maybe written fluency, but they're going to be able to communicate not because they want to connect with people, right? They are going to be able to communicate because they want to be able to rely on intellect to navigate life's challenges, to make their point heard so that they get what they want, so that they have the independence. So what's driving them is different. I can't stress that enough, because I think with any personality assessment, it's sort of like, okay, we all have different tendencies, so what? And it's like, well, if you know what's driving someone in the world, you can, 1, understand them better, and then 2, support them, better toward getting what they want because you understand why they want it. So I think it enables, like if you're a leader on a team, it absolutely enables you to understand, hey, okay, this person, why are they doing what they're doing? You know? So the fears of a type 5, well, being overwhelmed or depleted, being unable to cope with the demands of the world. This is somebody that I can think of a few type 5s where they really, because they value that autonomy, they're someone that has an office. They want it to be their sacred space. They will withdraw from social interactions to protect emotional and mental energy. They really fear intrusion or invasion of their privacy. It's like, this is my safe zone where I can have my introspection, reflection. They're very in their heads, but different from a type 4. Now, notice, right, a 5 can have a wing 4 or wing 6. So it's interesting because a type 5 is in their head because of their mental state, their intellect, their knowledge. They're contemplating the way of the world and trying to make sense of it. Type 4 is withdrawn because they feel like no one understands them and they're melancholic and they are emotional. So two very different types, but they kind of show up similarly in the recluse approach. A type 6, on the other hand, and this is where if you have a type 5 wing 6, a type 6 is all about the group, very loyal. I mean, it's called the loyalist. We'll talk about it in the next episode. But if you're dealing with a 5 wing 6, well, you might have somebody who this withdrawing is maybe less and they hold more importance on the group. And let's say that's the professor that, while they're striving for the intellectual piece, maybe does work better with others and isn't the standard archetypal professor in their broom closet, crunching numbers and writing essays. So there's nuance to this, as we've already learned, but that typical type 5 may struggle with feelings of inadequacy or incompetence, fearing that they lack the resources or knowledge to succeed. It's someone that, and I've met people like this, like they're always on to the next degree, on to the next certificate, program. They think the holy grail is the amount of letters beside their name and the amount of programs or certificates that they've completed. Now, again, even that can sound like a 5, but we have to look at why. Someone that's doing that for image sake is more type 3. So we can't assume, and we have to be very careful. Like, and I, in my work with clients, and even when I meet people, have to be careful, right, of kind of putting those labels, making assumptions. Just because someone has all those letters beside their name or is constantly doing another course, we have to understand what are they struggling with, or what are the feelings behind that's motivating. If we move to unique ways that the type 5 navigates the world, as we've mentioned, because they're so introspective, they're very observant and perceptive. So they'll notice details and patterns that others overlook, and that makes them really adept at problem solving and critical thinking and approaching challenges with a logical and systematic mindset. So this is somebody that's step 1, step 2, step 3, very logical, which means you might not get that fluid creative thinking. And so thinking through this as a manager, for example, you're going to want to say, okay, who am I pairing with who when it comes to someone managing a team that you directly interface with or people that work with you? You need to understand, if you're with a type 5, you've got to give them the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for them to get the picture. And then they'll be able to execute on it. They'll notice patterns and details within that framework, but they really do like the framework and having the structure. And then, as we've said, type 5s really value solitude and introspection. And so they have real peace when it comes to their own thoughts and ideas, which means this type of person might not be a sales rep, and this is something, not a new thought, but something to be said. So many companies nurture from, let's say, developer to some type of manager, and it just makes no sense because of somebody like this that values the solitude, the introspection, might not be interested in managing others. Again, we have to, there are 5 wing 6, there are nuances to this. I'm not putting anyone in a box, but I wish that companies on an organizational level didn't have career tracks that were so pigeonholed, and we're seeing changes in that, right? When it comes to a lot of tech organizations that are willing to bring up a software developer that just stays a developer because that's what they're great at and they get paid royally and move up the ranks, but they get to do what it is they're great at doing. And I think we need more of that in the career sphere, because a lot of times if you want to move up, that means people management, and that's just not for everyone. It takes a certain kind of person to manage. There's so much EQ related to that. You have to be able to understand people and want to understand people and work with people, manage their needs, and that's just not everybody. So why are we not rewarding people for their genius zone, right? And I mean, oftentimes in the market we are. If that person that's a developer that doesn't want to manage someone else moves around to the right company, they'll be in the right spot. But if they get stuck in a company that just wants to move them up the traditional hierarchy, they're going to get really unhappy and be unfulfilled in that trajectory. And so, if I was coaching someone like that, it would be, okay, where can you go? And, bigger tech organizations, as I've said, are definitely picking up on this and I see individual contributor tracks where you can absolutely move up and have a similar salary to, if not better than a manager, if you have the technical competency. And so same thing in universities, in academic institutions. Why are we forcing professors that are really great at teaching to do research and vice versa? Why are we forcing researchers to teach? They're terrible. They don't want to be teachers. They do it because they have to. It's such a weird thing. Why don't we have one job for the teachers and one job for the researchers? I think there's a completely different set of competencies that are required in those two roles that do not mesh well. And I saw it myself firsthand at university, and I hear it from a lot of people within educational institutions that I've coached, where you have people that are really proficient at research and people that are great at teaching, and it's usually not the same person. And there's a reason for that. It's calling upon different skills. Okay, rant over. If you do not like your career, get in touch with me or somebody that can help you. Because you don't have to fit yourself into the regular trajectory. There are places that will value your unique contribution financially and otherwise. You won't be put into a growth track that doesn't sound appealing to you. Okay, speaking of growth, where can the type 5 grow? Well, connection. So learning to prioritize connection and communication with others and seeking to share their knowledge and insights in a meaningful way is big. So not just talking someone's ear off about your academic pursuits that they don't understand, but really seeking to connect in that meaningful way, meaning the other person is interested in what you have to say and you're not just trying to sound really smart. Second one would be action. So oftentimes there's this endless analysis, and there can definitely be analysis paralysis. There are more resources to read, more information to gather. Type 5 can benefit from taking action and applying their knowledge in practical ways. So finding that practical application is really big for the type 5. And then vulnerability. So, if you're alone in your thoughts, it's easy to not trust and not go outward with things. And so embracing vulnerability as a 5 and bringing in some openness will allow the 5 to really share their thoughts and feelings with some trusted individuals. Doesn't mean everyone, doesn't mean you have to have a podcast and, share to the world, but it does mean embracing that openness, because that's where you will get that strong connection with others and you'll feel that you're a part of something bigger than yourself and get out of your head a bit. So when it comes to the Hornevian triad, as we've talked about, there's the withdrawn type, that is the type 5, and we've kind of hit that already, where, type 5 is very focused on inner experiences, similar to the type 4, right? But in a different way, because again, it's more cerebral. There's a desire for understanding and a fear of being overwhelmed. And that's where withdrawing into their own minds and seeking to understand and master the complexities of the world is an attempt to sort through all of that overwhelm and all the complexities and make it into that step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because the 5 thrives on that linear, logical type of approach. And so if they can step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the things in their life and get them into that linear order, then they feel less overwhelmed. So that's where the withdraw, get things in order, come back, withdraw again, process all the stuff, come back. That's what you're going to see with the type 5. And very sort of masculine approach, if you think of masculine energy, right, where women will often reach to the group and have a group discussion and seek opinions, and there's that relational component with women, whereas men will oftentimes sit on their own, feel overwhelmed, and try to sort through and sift through. I actually had a client today talking about exactly that, where it's like his girlfriend, it's let's talk about it, are you on the same page as me? And for him, it's like, okay, I need to figure out what I need to do about this. This is overwhelming. Sit on the couch, try to sort through what what are all the steps, what all needs to be done, and then go put that into action. So much more of a masculine approach to overwhelm. Although, again, we're talking masculine energy and anybody can be this way, but it is a different way of coping from seeking outside support. It's more of a solitary approach. So if you do this and you're a type 5 or not, it would be something to consider. Hey, would I benefit from seeking connection on this, seeking expert advice? The alternate is true. It's interesting. I had a female client today, and she was, as I said, the complete opposite. So she was seeking, and she does seek advice externally a lot and doesn't trust that internal dialogue. And so it's sort of interesting. Notice, are you seeking outwardly or seeking inwardly? And is either side paralyzing? You want to balance. You don't want to go outward all the time and not trust yourself, but at the same time, if you're just inwardly ruminating and trying to get information and reading books and not taking action, you're still stuck. So it's not that one way is better than the other, right? It's just to be aware of what you gravitate toward and then potentially moderate that a little bit so that it's as useful as it can be for you. That's all. Oh yeah. Okay. And center of intelligence. So as you might have guessed, the type 5 is a head center. So all about intellectual awareness, problem solving. The way that they go about making decisions is, of course, relying on their probably internet, and intellect to really analyze the situation and then navigate any uncertainties or challenges. So they are thinking their way through their problems for sure. They probably don't know what their feelings are, how they feel about something, or how to articulate them. They don't even think that's important or necessary. So again, we want to draw out the feelings, the connection, the support, the vulnerability from the 5 in order for them to grow. If you find this interesting, I'd love for you to take the free assessment and figure out your type, and then let me know. I will see your results and reach out to you. So we'll definitely be in discussion if you do take the free assessment linked in the show notes. But whether you resonate with a type 5 or the Enneagram or not, these are sort of questions that are all meant to bring you closer to more conscious awareness about yourself. Why would you want to seek conscious awareness? Who cares? Well, because you're responding to your life in ways that, I would say 100% of clients when they first come to me have a story about how their life is going, about the way things are in the world, and whether they're talking to me about their situation personally, the economy, their job, their relationship, whatever it is that they come to me with. This is how it is. This is my fear. This is what I'm thinking. And it all feels so true and factual in the way that they say it. And yet they've really just gotten to a grooved way of thinking. They're thinking a certain story repeatedly that it's become the truth in their mind. But it's not necessarily true. There are so many different reasons for layoffs. There are so many different reasons why you didn't get the promotion. There's so many different reasons why you continue to argue with your spouse or you don't feel connected. We make things mean one story based on our experience, based on evidence that we've found, but through conversations with my clients, they're always 5, 6, 7, infinite in theory, right? Ways of looking and turning a situation around and seeing why things are the way they are. And so I really think it's important to start somewhere on this for yourself. And I think the Enneagram is a good starting point because it kind of lays out where you're at. It lays out levels of development, and it gives you those kind of stepping stones, which for a type 5 would be great, right? It gives you really level 1, 2, 3 to 9. So it's a solid way for a type 5 if you're a type 5 to go about this. But, if you're not and you find it to be more abstract, again, this can be a great way because the Enneagram does flex with nuances as well. But don't let me convince you. Go take the free assessment, see what you think, figure out your type, and more than anything, continue to reflect on what you're telling yourself day in, day out, because that's what's creating the life that you have right now. And if there are parts of your life that you're less than happy with, which, hi, welcome to being human. Who does not have a part of their life that they feel could be better? So if that's you, which, again, who isn't in that boat, then I highly recommend you start really considering what stories am I telling myself? What do I believe to be true? And really start questioning the dialogue in your mind, because normally we get into kind of a one-track mind on certain situations, relationships, and we kind of don't question or negotiate with ourselves. So whether you're 5 or not, bring that problem-solving, intellectual, questioning nature into your day and start thinking about how you can best explore your own dialogue within your head. And I look forward to seeing you next time as we explore type 6, the loyalist. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this episode today. It really helps the show when you like, review, subscribe, or donate to support the effort to continue producing amazing episodes just like this one. I look forward to seeing you again in another episode very soon, and take good care until then.